Welcome to this beginner level Audacity tutorial. We will learn how to record audio in Audacity and edit those recordings. We will also learn how to edit existing recordings in Audacity. And finally, we will see how we can make those recordings sound better through various Audacity effects. How to record. Recording in Audacity is very simple. If you press the red record button, the recording will start. You can also press R on the keyboard. However, you have to ensure that you have set all the options correctly before recording. Otherwise, your recording quality will be poor. It is very important to get as much good recording as possible. It makes audio editing easier, and the final quality of audio depends on how good the recording is. To achieve the best possible recording quality, you have to check 4 points before recording: the microphone, the recording channel, the microphone input level, and the project rate. I'll go through all these points one by one. Go to audio setup and you can configure your recording setup from here. You will see all your connected microphones from the recording device. The currently selected microphone will have a tick mark beside it. Select the microphone you want to use for recording. My microphone is connected through a Escalate audio interface. If I check the recording device from audio setup again, I see Escalate has a tick mark beside it. I find this way of selecting microphone can lead to an issue where you forget to set the proper microphone. I suggest setting the microphone from the device toolbar, where you can always see which microphone is selected. You can find the device toolbar from View, Toolbars and Device toolbar. A new toolbar has been added. You can always see which microphone is currently selected for recording. The device toolbar is one of the most useful toolbars in Audacity, but it is not shown by default. So remember to enable this toolbar from the menu. Sometimes you may not see the microphone in this list, though it is connected to the computer. It happens when you attach the microphone while Audacity is open. To solve this, go to Transport and rescan audio devices. The microphone is selected and now set the recording channel. There are 2 options for recording channels, mono and stereo. For voiceover, mono is fine. For music recording, you might want to select the stereo recording channel. With a stereo recording channel, you can add different effects on the left and right sides of the headphone. For voice recording, you will not need such effects, so select mono to keep things simple. After the recording channel drop-down, you will see another device drop-down. This is the playback device, so you can select it later when you listen to your recorded audio. During recording, it is not important unless you want to monitor your recording live or use the overdub feature for multi-track recording. I'll get back to these points later. Now I want to record a simple voiceover. It is vital to set the recording volume level properly. Post-processing your audio heavily depends on the input level of your recording. You can check your recording level or gain from the recording meter. Click on the small microphone icon and start monitoring. This way you can set the proper input level before recording. Your goal would be to hit -12 on this meter during the loudest peaks. Not every spoken word has to hit -12 in this meter. Only the louder sound should be around -12. Other spoken words should cross -24 and be around -18 most of the time. You may have to increase the gain if you are not achieving such a level in the record meter. You may increase the gain through the volume knob of the microphone or audio interface if you search a knob there. The recording meter also has a slider that can be used to control gain. You can drag this slider to adjust the recording level. Though this slider sometimes freezes due to a bug in Audacity, it has freezed at the moment. Let me show that from the playback meter slider, as both works similarly. You can adjust the slider and check the meter if it is hitting in the right place. When it hits the right place in the meter, you set the slider in that position. I keep the recording meter to 100%. You may have to position the microphone differently if you fail to hit -12 on the meter, even after increasing the gain. You may have to come closer to the microphone, talk louder, or adjust your talking direction. You may ask me why you have to hit -12 on the meter. Well, you can hit higher than that, like -6. Notice the maximum on this meter is 0. Closer to 0 you record, the less headroom you will have in post-production. If you boost some signals in the post-processing and it crosses 0, it will result in clipping or distorted sound. -12 is a safe enough value to get enough headroom in the post-processing. I would like to increase the size of the meter as it is so important to monitor. You can drag these tools to reposition and extend. You can stop monitoring by clicking the microphone and stop monitoring. The last thing you have to check before recording is the project rate. Though the irony is you do not need to use a higher project rate than 44.1 kHz. Still, you need to be aware of this project rate. A lower project rate like 32 kHz or lower may fail to capture all the good bits of your recording. However, the opposite is not true. You will not notice any difference in audio quality with a higher project rate like 88 kHz or more. Instead, your file size will grow significantly larger. I am skipping the details of why that is, but you should know you can get the best possible recording with 44.1 kHz or 48 kHz. All the amazing MP3s you listen are 44.1 kHz. Make sure the project rate is 44.1 kHz or 48 kHz and you are ready. I discussed this point as many beginners wrongly think their bad recording is due to project rate. That is not the case, and when you are not getting a good quality recording, it is more likely your recording environment or equipment, not the project rate. As everything is set, I will press the record button now and let you hear the original recording. Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software. For Mac, you also have the option of GarageBand, and if you think about some paid software, then you can choose Adobe Audition or Isotope RX. There are lots of software available, but whatever software you use, you have to know the basics of audio recording and editing. And to stop the recording, you just press the stop button. The recording is done, and what you see are the timeline and waveform. I'll get back into details of this, but the first thing you need to do is to save the project. File, Save Project, and you will see a warning message as this is not an audio file. You can only open this file in Audacity and not in any other audio playing apps. Click OK. Give your project a name and choose a location to save. You will be able to open this project a later time and work from the last saving point. Remember, Audacity does not have an autosave feature, so you have to explicitly save any changes you want to persist. Here is the Audacity project and op3 file, and I will double click to open it. The blue things are called waveforms. In audio editing, we mainly edit these waveforms. Waveforms are visual guides of your audio. You can get the idea of which parts are louder and which parts are quieter by seeing the waveform. Editing these waveforms are similarly to editing a document editor. I'll discuss those in the next section. How to use Audacity interface and edit effectively. The Audacity interface may look confusing if you have no experience with editing software. Trust me, Audacity has the most straightforward interface of any audio editing software. Using it couple of times will make sense of all the buttons you see. This whole thing is called a track, and we only have a single track. The track has an information panel at the beginning and a timeline with a waveform. The number you see above the timeline are seconds. If you click the number, the audio will start playing from that second. There are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the... You can also play audio from inside the track. Click at the point from where you want to play the audio and press a spacebar. You can also use the play button for audio editing and recording. To stop the playing audio, press the spacebar again. In the speaking parts of the audio, the waveform is clearly visible. On the silent parts, the line looks flat. Though the line looks flat here, there are some white background noise. If I play the audio, you can see the noise level in the meter. You may hear the noise if you are listening in a quiet environment with headphones. You can increase the track size vertically by dragging the track from the bottom. You can see some dots visible in the silent parts which are different kinds of noises. If you want to delete some parts of the audio, select it and press delete on the keyboard. To undo any change, press Command Z or Ctrl Z. Deleting something from the timeline alters it. If I delete this piece of audio, everything after it comes forward in the timeline. Sometimes you may want to remove something but want to keep the timeline the same. You can do that from Silence Audio Selection button. Those audios are gone and the other audios are in their place as before. You can also do opposite of that. Only keep the selected part and remove the remaining audio. Copy and paste of the audio works with the standard shortcuts. Select the parts of the audio you want to copy and press Command C or Ctrl C if you are using Windows. Click to the point where you want to paste and Command V. Undo the last action is Command Z. You can see those shortcuts from the edit menu. Besides this copy-paste command, there is another interesting command, duplicate. Duplicate command duplicates an entire track and you have to select the track. Otherwise, you will see a prompt asking you to select what to duplicate. You can either duplicate the whole track or parts of the track. I'll select the entire track by double-clicking inside it and duplicate it using Command D. A new track has been added at the bottom. These two tracks are now at different heights. If I use Command Shift F, they would have equal heights. Control Shift F if you are using Windows. You can get this command in View, Track Size and Fit to Height. If you have one track, it will take the full height. If you have multiple tracks, the height will be distributed equally. Like Fit to Height, there is another command, Fit to Width. Your track will fit in the width of the Audacity screen. The waveforms are now looking more condensed, as all waveforms are now on the screen. You can also do these things using these buttons. Zoom toggle alternates between very detailed zoom and condensed zoom. Fit to width buttons are used here and you can use these instead from the menu or shortcuts. You can zoom in or out in the waveform as much as you want. This helps precise editing as the timeline gets big. You can also use the mouse scroll bar to zoom in or out while the cursor is inside the track. You can cross out any track using the cross icon. You can rename any track name to remind yourself what is in which track. This is useful when you are working with multiple tracks. You can move around the tracks inside the timeline. A hand icon appears when you place the cursor in the white area. You can drag the track to shift in the timeline. I'll cross out this duplicate track and show some features from the top track. You can also rename this. It is basically a clip. A track can have a single clip or multiple clips. You can split a clip. To split a clip, go to a point from where you want to split. Go to Edit, Audio Clips and Split. At the splitting point, a bold vertical line appears. A new clip is now created and I can move these clips around independently. The second clip has the same name as the first clip. I'll rename it to Clip 2. I can create as many clips as I need following the same process. Go to the point of split and split. It is possible to trim clips in Audacity. If you take your mouse pointer to the edges of the clip, the cursor will change to a trimming icon. The trimming icon with pointers on both ends should appear now, but it is not appearing for some reason. The icon has appeared now. You can trim the edges to make a clip shorter. You can trim spoken parts and expand to get those back. Audacity calls this feature non-destructive editing because the audio is there. Audacity developed this feature in version 3.1, but I am not sure if it is that useful. I want to hear from you if you find this non-destructive feature helpful. Split can also be done to a new track. However, it does not work the same way as split, where you just set a split point. Splitting to new tracks requires a selection of the audio which you want to take to the new track. I selected this part and if I go to split new, I'll get this audio into a new track. The audio I had selected moved to a new track. Just like other clips, I can move it around. If I want to discard some last changes in editing and go to a previous point, I can undo it multiple times to reach that point. Another way to do it is from history. You will get history from the view menu for the current session only. If you close Audacity and open the same file, a new session starts. History will have records from the current session. An arrow will point at which action of editing you are currently. If some gray line appears after the current action, that means those actions are undone by your undo command. I want to discard all my changes after duplicating the track. I'll select duplicated action and click OK. I'll close the duplicated track. If you want to rearrange different toolbars, you can do that. You can drag any toolbar and set it in a new position. You can expand the meters if you want to see the details of the readings. If you mess up the positioning of the toolbars, you can always reset it. From View, Toolbars, Reset Toolbars. Toolbars have some other toolbars that you can check to see if they are useful to you. Some people find the Cut Paste toolbar handy. A new set of icons was added here, which is the Cut Paste toolbar. You can now cut or copy any parts with the click of these buttons. Copy-paste of audio waveforms is similar to any document editor. Audacity also has a pair of undo and redo buttons. I prefer keyboard shortcuts for this type of action, but it is up to you which method you prefer. Audacity supports adding labels in different places of the recording. For example, you may want to add a note either here or in both places. Click on the place where you want to add a label, go to Edit, Labels, and Add Label at Selection. A new track will appear with a text input option. Write your note, which may help you later in the editing process. You can add as many labels as you want. Label track is not related to audio recording, so your sound will not be affected. Though you have to remember, labels are not locked with the audio track, so deleting something from the track misplaces the labels. If I delete this selection, Issue 2 will point to a different place in the waveform. I hope Audacity implements some locking between labels and tracks so that they always remain in sync. That way, a label will be much more useful. The workaround for this will be to select both the audio track and label track when deleting something from the audio track. If you select both the audio track and label tracks by dragging and then delete, the label tracks will be in sync. Adding a label track every time from the menu can be tedious, and you can enable Type to create a label. Enabling this option will let you add labels by typing inside the label track. For example, if I want to add a label anywhere, I'll click inside the label track and start typing. This label can be expanded to point a range in the track. Drag the handles in the label and you can adjust the selection. I'll close this label track and show you some features of this track information panel. Let's duplicate this track by selecting everything and Command D. The solo button makes the current track active and mutes all other tracks. During playback, only the active tracks can be heard. Mute mutes the current track as we expect. After those two buttons, an effect button lets you add real-time effects. Built-in effects in Audacity cannot be used as real-time effects, only third-party effects. I'll discuss this in the next section. Right-click inside the track information panel to some track-related settings. You can see a spectrogram instead of the waveform. The spectrogram shows which audio frequency has how much energy. Though Audacity does not support that much good editing to do a spectrogram. If you are using Audacity as an audio learning tool, the spectrogram might help. Otherwise, it is not much useful in terms of audio editing in Audacity. It is possible to see both waveform and spectrogram at the same time. You can also change the waveform color if you do not like the default blue. It is a cosmetic change and has no effects on the sound. If you prefer your waveform in another color, you can change it. I would prefer the default blue. A select button at the bottom selects the whole track. Double-clicking inside the track does the same job. The triangle before the select button is for collapsing the track. If multiple tracks are not fitting well or you want to focus on more than one track, you can collapse other tracks. A gain control slider can increase or decrease the volume of the audio. I will play and adjust and you will hear the difference.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use.
The next slider is the pan slider, which adds a panning effect on the left or right side of the headphone.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use.
If you are using a headphone, you will understand what I mean. You can repeatedly listen to a part of the audio through the loop button.
Audacity is the best. Audacity is the best. Audacity is the best. Audacity is the best. Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording.
A marker appears on the top of the timeline to denote the loop starting and ending. You can adjust loop selection by rearranging these markers.
Audacity is the best free software. Audacity is the best free software. Audacity is the best.
I'll end this editing basics section by showing the frequency analysis tool. If you want to know which frequencies are making a sound, you can select it and go to the Analyze menu. Click on Plot Spectrum. A beautiful graph appears showing which frequency has how much energy. For basic audio editing, these may not be important, but who want to dive deep into the audio editing, it is a fantastic tool. How to use Audacity effects. There is another major purpose of using Audacity besides recording and editing audio. This purpose is to use Audacity effects to make it better or different. You can see all the available effects from the effect menu. There are two kinds of audio effects. One fixes some issues and the other makes the audio different. For example, the noise reduction effect removes some noise from the recording. So it is an example of an effect that fixes something. On the other hand, the echo effect makes the sound echoey. So it is an example of effect that makes the audio different. Audacity has some effects on its own called built-in effects. You can also use third-party effects with Audacity. All the effects under this line are third-party effects. They are grouped by vendor names. I have installed plugins from MuseFX and Isotope, so I see those names. For you, this vendor name will not be the same. The built-in effects are grouped by what kind of task it does. I will discuss later this Add Real-Time Effects and Plugin Manager. You can change the way effects are grouped from Audacity preference. It is actually a matter of choice and convenience. You can configure different settings for Audacity from preference. On the effects, you will see a sort or group dropdown. You can change from default to other options. For example, sorted by the effect name. Click OK and you will see the effects are arranged differently. You can now see effects are arranged by name. It makes the effect menu quite big, but the effects are easier to find. It is up to you how you want your effects to be displayed. I will change it back to the default group option. There are many built-in effects and discussing all these effects will take a very long time. Instead, I will discuss some most used effects. These 4 effects are the primary effects to make any voice sound better. The order of these effects are also very important to get the optimal result. However, I will not maintain this order to show how the effect works. My goal is to help you understand how an effect works and how to configure an effect. So I will discuss it in an order that is easier for you to understand. But when you use the effects to improve your sound, maintain this order. I will duplicate this track to compare it with the effect applied track. I will rename this bottom track to original and apply the effects on the top track. Double-click inside the top track and select everything inside it. The first effect I will apply is the normalize effect. You will get it in volume compression. You can think of normalizing as a mechanism of volume control. The loudest part of the audio will get the value you set here. So if you set the peak amplitude as -3, the maximum peak in this meter will be -3. Let's assume before normalizing the loudest part of the audio is hitting -15 in this meter. After normalizing with a peak amplitude of -3, the -15 will become -3, a total increase of 12 dB in the volume. Every part of the audio will increase by 12 dB then. It means your noise will also increase by 12 dB. I am not going into the detail to keep this tutorial beginner friendly. Once you finish this tutorial, you can check the other videos on my channel, which discusses various audio topics in detail. You can get back to the default settings from factory preset from any built-in effects. Keep the remove DC offset checked. It keeps the waveform centered around this 0.0 value. However, modern recording equipment does not produce such offset very often, but keeping this checked will not do any harm. I am working with a monotrack, so there is no point in checking this last checkbox as that is for the stereo channel. You may wonder what the perfect value for this peak amplitude is. It depends on the situation. The maximum value can be 0, which is the maximum value in the Audacity meters. It will not take any positive value and controls become inactive when I enter a positive value. I usually use -3 as the peak amplitude. Some platforms do some processing after upload, so -3 keeps a headroom for extra processing. -3 also makes the audio comfortably audible.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording, though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but
you see the audio has become louder and is not crossing -3 in the meter. Let me find a sample with a higher peak.
And if you think about some paid software,
it is not getting close to -3. Let me find another sample. It looks like this one has the loudest peak.
But whatever software you use, you have to know the basics of audio recording and editing.
So you see, it is not crossing -3 as I had normalized the peak to -3. Did you notice the hissing noise has become strong after normalization? There are many causes for hissing noise, such as AC, laptop fan, etc. Even the microphone or audio interface can introduce some hissing noise, though we do not hear those during recording. Audacity has an effect of noise reduction to minimize this hissing noise. It only works with hissing noise or white background noise. If you have irregular background noise, it is not that useful. To remove hissing noise, you have to select a noise-only part from anywhere in the recording. It can be from the start, middle, or end. The main point is your selected hissing noise is also present in other parts of the audio. So when you reduce that noise, the same noise from other parts also gets reduced. I have already selected a piece from the beginning. Noise reduction is a two-step process. The first step involves introducing the noise to Audacity. With the noise sample selected, go to Noise Reduction. Click on Get Noise Profile and Audacity will match this noise and remove it in step 2. Select the portion of the audio from where you want to remove that noise. For me, that white noise is present all over the audio, so I will select everything on the track by double-clicking inside it. Go to Noise Reduction effect again. You have to set the values for these sliders. Remember, there is a cost with noise reduction. The more noise you reduce, the harsher the sound becomes. If you want to know the details of an effect, click on the help icon on the effect settings. You will be taken to a detailed documentation of that effect. You can read about what the settings do and how to configure the settings. This documentation is useful for those who want to go deep into audio editing. The noise reduction manual has recommended settings for voice. It suggests a value of 6 for each of the sliders. Let's get back to Audacity and configure those sliders. Set the amount of noise you want to reduce from noise reduction slider. It is recommended to use 6, though you may need to go higher like 9. The default value of this slider is 12, though I feel it introduces a noticeable harshness with a value of 12. I will set it to 12 for now for demo purposes. Sensitivity decides how aggressively the noise reduction will be. If it is set to 0, no noise reduction will happen, regardless of what value you set in other sliders. The maximum value is 24, but you can go hardly over 6, because a too aggressive noise reduction will destroy the audio quality. Set the sensitivity value to 6. After noise reduction, a gap is introduced in the audio. Frequency smoothing bands reduces that gap. It helps to reduce the harshness introduced due to noise reduction. For music recording, a value like 2 or 1 is recommended. 0 means no smoothing will be applied. For voice recording, a value of 6 works best. If you want to preview how it will sound, Audacity will play a 6-second preview. To apply these settings, click on OK. The line already looks flat. If I play this, the noise is quite reduced. It is hitting somewhere between -36 and -39 in this meter due to a mouth noise. This tiny dot is the mouth noise. The noise other than the mouth noise is quite small. If I delete the mouth noise, you can see how low it is hitting in the meter. I'll undo the delete and you should focus more on the noise in the spoken parts. Let's check how the spoken words sound now.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use.
I feel it is a bit harsh after noise reduction. As I said earlier, a value of 12 makes the sound bit harsh. I'll undo the noise reduction from history and do a noise reduction with 6. I already gave Audacity a noise sample in this session, so I am skipping step 1. Audacity already has the noise profile. I'll set the noise reduction to 6.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of
I think the sound is okay and no obvious noise is there. There is one effect in audio editing that can make or break a recording: equalization. Equalization, or EQ in short, is the process of editing volume by frequencies. You will get EQ from EQ and filters. The filter curve EQ is the most sophisticated of all these EQ effects, and I will use it. You can draw curves of frequency manipulation to EQ your audio. I'll reset it to default settings. The green line where we draw the curve is now flattened. You can also flatten the curve from the flatten button. The green line is aligned with 0 dB. In this horizontal axis, you can see the frequencies. Frequency started at 20 Hz and ended at 20 kHz. Every sound we hear has a frequency. A human can only listen to sounds in the frequency range of 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. In the vertical axis, you see the dB in numbers. You can either increase or decrease the volume of a frequency by dragging the green line to a certain dB. The topic of how sound is distributed over frequencies is quite a large topic. For the sake of EQ, it is good to know that when we hear a sound, it is a combination of many frequencies. In other words, we hear multiple frequencies simultaneously for a particular sound. So different words or different sounds will have a different combination of frequencies. When we increase the volume of some frequencies, we call it a boost. When we decrease the volume of some frequencies, we call it a cut. So how do we know which frequencies to cut or boost? For voiceover, we have certain guidelines. But the actual process of EQ also depends on experience. I'll discuss some common guidelines and you will understand them after trying them a couple of times. Audacity has some factory presets and you can go over them to get an idea what they're doing. For some voices, a treble boost can make the sound crispier. It depends on the voice type that I'll get back to shortly. If you analyze treble boost graph, it starts boosting at 4 kHz and reaches 9 dB at 5 kHz. Then it applies a 9 dB boost on the rest of the frequencies. Boost should also be limited to 6 dB because a 9 dB boost may sound unnatural. The small white dots you see are dragging points. I can drag the green line from the dragging points. I'll drag the green line from 9 dB to 6 dB. A white dot will appear if I click anywhere in the green line. I can drag it to boost or cut. I am cutting frequencies after 16 kHz. Because for voice, there is nothing after that frequency most of the time. Let's apply this EQ and let's hear how it sounds.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording.
It sounds crispier. I'll undo the EQ effect from history and apply a more advanced EQ. This advanced EQ is recommended for most of the voices. From factory preset, I'll use roll-up for each pitch. This preset is slowly rolling up frequencies less than 100 Hz. I'll roll up from 80 Hz instead of 100 because our fundamental frequency can start from as low as 80 Hz. Anything less than 80 Hz is not our voice. If there is something beyond 80 Hz, that is probably noise. Rolling up from less than 80 Hz can help to reduce that kind of noise. To add crispiness, I will add the treble boost. I cannot use that from the factory preset as that will override the modification I already did. Instead, I will add those manually. I have added two dots on 4 kHz and 5 kHz. I will drag the 5 kHz dot to 6 dB. Like last time, I will add a cut after 16 kHz. It is a generic EQ that works for most of the voice. However, some voices produce sibilance or sharpness. For that kind of voice, treble boost should be avoided or used with a DSR. I can save this drawing as a preset so that I do not have to redraw it again next time. Click on Save Preset and give it a name. I will name it My Best EQ 1. This preset will appear in User Presets. I will apply the EQ.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording, though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but
It sounds way much better than the original recording.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording, though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to.
We have to learn about another effect, the compressor. A compressor reduces the gap between louder and quieter sounds. This gap is called dynamic range and the compressor reduces it. Audacity has two kinds of compressor, downward compressor and upward compressor. Configuring a downward compressor with Audacity is difficult as we cannot read the values directly from the meter. It uses a RMS value which is a bit difficult to read with Audacity. If you check the compress based on peaks checkbox, an upward compressor will be used. I'll use an upward compressor. The makeup gain checkbox does a 0 dB like normalization after compressing the sound. It does not matter if you keep this checked or unchecked because we can normalize after compressing. So this checkbox does not matter. You have to measure a value for the threshold and noise floor from your recording. It will vary from recording to recording, so it is important to understand how to measure it. It is good to apply the compressor before normalizing. I'll get back to the point of editing before the normalize effect. Now I have exactly the original recording, just duplicated also in the bottom track. If you remember, I said these effects have to apply in this order to make a voice sound better. So I'll apply the first two effects and then show you how to measure the compressor sound levels. I am fast forwarding noise reduction and EQ as I have already discussed those in detail. I will now apply the compressor in the proper way. I have to measure a value for the threshold. As I will be using an upward compressor, any value less than the threshold will be increased in volume. I will play some parts of the audio and note where it hits the meter.
Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to.
It crosses -21 most of the time and the peak hits -15. The threshold will be a value between these two values. I also have to measure the noise floor value. It is just over -45. So the noise floor value in the compressor configuration has to be greater than this value. I'll go to compressor effects as I have all the required readings. I'll choose -18 as the threshold value. Any recording under -18 will be decreased in volume and the gap with louder sounds will be minimized. I kept the noise floor to -35, greater than the noise floor I measured. -35 is also less than any spoken words volume, so it is a safe value. I'll choose 4:1 as the ratio. Choose a ratio like 3:1 or 4:1. Too much compression makes them sound unnatural.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording, Though there are couple of other software.
The last effect to make the sound better will be normalize.
You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software.
So this is how the final edited recording sounds. There is another effect that works as an alternative to normalize. You will need this effect if your project requires a loudness level or laps. You can normalize based on RMS or perceived loudness. Perceived loudness is most used. Some TV channels have a requirement of -23 laps.
Audacity is the best free software.
It may sound a bit of low volume for YouTube videos. For YouTube videos, you can use -18 laps. You will notice an increase in the waveform as I apply -18 laps. So far, all my shown effects are in the fixing side. Let's see an effect whose purpose is an enhancement, reverb. From factory presets, you can select different kinds of reverb. You can make the recording sound like it was in a large room or church hall. Different room sizes have different types of sound reflections, and reverb adds that reflection.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording.
I'll select a church hall. You can play around with other sliders and check how it sounds.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free.
It sounded pretty funny. The last effect I will show in this tutorial is truncate silence. It can be a time-saving effect. I'll feed the entire waveform onto the screen. Go to truncate silence from the special group. Configure how Audacity will recognize a silence. I configured that if the sound level is less than -28 dB for half a second, that is a silence. The action tells Audacity what to do when a silent part is found. I set to truncate the silence to 0.3 seconds. So whenever my audio has a 0.5 seconds or more extended silence, the silence will cut to 0.3 seconds. You can see the overall waveform got shorter as the silent part got truncated. There are tons of other effects in Audacity, and I advise you to explore those. If you want to know about any effect in detail, let me know in the comment. Real-time effects. Real-time effects are a new feature in Audacity from version 3.2.0. You can produce better or excellent sounding audio using real-time effects. While using built-in effects, you have to know a bit of detail about audio editing. With real-time effects, you can produce better sounding audio without knowing the details of audio editing. You will drag the necessary effects and your sound will improve instantly. To add real-time effects, click on the Effects tab on the Track Information panel. You can add an effect from the Add Effect button. Only third-party effects can be used as real-time effects. Previously, Audacity did not have good compatible plugins for real-time effects. MuseFX has developed some plugins that are both useful and work well with Audacity. Before applying any of these effects, let me show you how to get these effects into your Audacity. Click on Get More Effects and you will be taken to the Audacity plugin page. You will get plugin related updates on this page. You can see what type of third-party plugins are available to Audacity. You will get links to download these plugins. MuseFX plugin suites have several plugins. Click on MuseFX. MuseFX is a collection of useful plugins that dramatically impact Audacity's real-time effect. These plugins are blended well with Audacity. Before these plugins, real-time effects were not that useful in Audacity. Click on the MuseHub link. You have to install the MuseHub helper and choose the file for your OS. I already have installed MuseHub helper and I'll open it. You will get an icon for MuseHub and go to Effects. Remember, this is a helper that lets you download the effects. Click on Effects and you will see all the effects available. I already have installed many effects from here and those show a tick mark. You will see a Get button and click on the Get to download the effect. I recommend you install all the effects you see here. After the effects get downloaded, restart your Audacity. I hope you understand the process of how to get MuseHub effects. Back to Audacity and let's make the audio better using real-time effects. I'll duplicate the track for future comparison. As the real-time effects panel is already open, I have to click inside the track where I want to add real-time effects. I will add real-time effects on the top track. There are a couple of effects that make the sound better. The first one is compress. Compress will reduce the gap between the louder and the quieter sounds. MuseFX compress also makes the sound louder after compressing. The compress effect is added and clicking on it will open the configuration pop-up. Real-time configurations are easy to configure. You will listen to the audio using different presets and decide which one sounds best. You can see a list of compress presets here. You can adjust the knob to set how much of the effect you want. If you feel the effect is doing too much, you decrease the knob. If the effect needs to do more, you increase the knob. You can go back to the defaults from the factory preset. I'll play this audio with compress effect and try out different presets.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software. For Mac, you also have the option of GarageBand, and if you think about some,
I think pop vocals preset is working best for this voice recording. I'll add another effect. Closing the pop-up does not mean the effect is disabled. The effect is active if the blue icon appears before the effect name. I will add an EQ to make the sound crispier. MuseFX has two EQs, Pro EQ and Simple EQ. Pro EQ offers a bit of flexibility but also requires some understanding of frequencies. I will add Simple EQ for now. Like the compress effect, Simple EQ has some presets. I will listen to the audio with both effects. I can switch off and on any effect using this switch button. Let's play and toggle between EQ on and off.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you
I feel it sounded better when EQ was on. I had only used the presence preset, which is good for voiceover, but I suggest you explore and listen to which sounds best to you. You can change an effect. For example, I want to use Pro EQ instead of Simple EQ. Pro EQ has a bit more knobs than the Simple EQ. You can adjust those knobs to adjust a particular frequency range. Let's listen with Pro EQ.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software. For Mac, you also have the option of GarageBand, and if you think about some, I think pop vocals preset is working best for this voice recording.
I feel it sounded best with the pop vocals with Pro EQ. The sound has become quite better, but the noise has also increased. MuseFX does not have a good noise reduction effect at the moment. I hope they will develop one in the near future. MuseFX has a noise gate, but noise gating with a strong hissing noise makes the listening experience worse. The noise gate removes noise from the quiet parts but comes back suddenly in the spoken parts. Let's listen with the noise gate on and you will understand the issue.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software. For Mac, you also have the option of GarageBand, and if you
listen through the headphone, you might find this on and off hissing noise distracting. I'll disable the noise gate. I can remove this effect from no effect. I will add a reverb effect which can be used for two purposes. Either it can add a different type of effect on the sound, or it can take care of some room reflections. For example, the vocal booth can minimize room sound reflections.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this.
Not a big difference, but it removes some of the sound reflections in the room. You can add the same effect multiple times. As I said earlier, reverb could also add a different kinds of sound effects. I'll add some sound effects from this reverb effect.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this software, you can move to a more complex software.
I hope you understand how to get sound effects using reverb. I'll remove the second reverb as my intention is to make the sound better only. At this point, you may be wondering about the waveforms. The bottom track is the original recording and no effects have been added to it. The top track has 3 real-time effects applied, but the both waveforms look similar. Real-time effects in Audacity do not show the change in the waveform immediately. If I export the track with real-time effects, I can see the changes in the waveform. I am exporting this track and will show you what I mean. This is the exported track, and if I drag it into Audacity, you will see a change in the waveform. If I play the tracks, you will see the first and third tracks are the same.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this,
it is possible to see the waveform change without exporting, but it has another consequence. Click on the track with real-time effects and go to Tracks menu. Mix and render. You can see both the first and third waveforms are the same. Though we can see the change in the waveform, the real-time effects stack no longer appears here. If we want to make some changes on the effects we already added, we will not be able to do that. So I will undo the mixing and want to see which effects have been added. During the export, I get the sound I am hearing now. So I feel no necessity to mix and render real-time effects in the track. You can rearrange these effects stack, though I do not hear any difference in rearranging in this way. Audacity may have plans for this in the future. If you have installed any third-party effects and do not see them in the effects list, check if that is enabled. Go to the plugin manager from Effect. You can find all the plugins here, both enabled and disabled. These plugins include all the built-in effects from Audacity and any third-party effects. You can enable or disable any plugin. Select the plugin and you will see a enable and disable button. You can also filter down disabled effects. I have most of my effects enabled. I do not have any disabled effects now. Muse effects will be enabled automatically once you download the effect and restart Audacity properly. Besides Muse effects, other third-party plugins can be found on this plugins page. You can check if any third-party plugin is available for your need. Usually these plugins are easy to use than built-in effects. You will need a basic understanding of audio editing to use Audacity built-in effects. With third-party plugins, you can dial some knobs and check how the sound changes. Not every third-party plugins get into Audacity automatically. You can check the installation process for your OS. Muse effects plugins are easy to use and install. I suggest you spend some time learning how to use Muse effects. Multi-track recording in Audacity. Multi-track recording is essential for producing songs or podcasts. It is also necessary for re-recording parts of the voiceover. If some parts of the voiceover needs to be re-recorded, you can record that part in another track and replace that part from the main track. Once you finish recording a track, clicking on the record button will start recording after the track. It will be the same track, just a different clip. It is denoted by number 2 of audio track 1. If you take the mouse over the record button, you will see a keyboard shortcut to record a new track, Shift R. However, pressing Shift R will start recording the new track from the last playhead position. If you want to record the new track from the beginning, click at the beginning to move the playhead, then record. The keyboard shortcut is not the only way to record in multi-track. From the Tracks menu, add new track. It can be a monotrack or a stereo track based on your need. I'll choose the monotrack. Click inside the track from where you want the recording to start. Click on the record button and the recording will start. I have not muted the top track, so you may be wondering if the top track will be played back during recording. It depends on how you set the overdub. Go to Transport and then Transport Options. I have no tick mark beside the overdub, which means it is off. I can click on it and the overdub will be on. The overdub feature is on now. If I record something now, you will hear both the existing track and the recording. I'll let you hear the original sounds during the recording.
Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest
Audacity
one
for
to use.
your audio editing.
You can practice your
And
audio
this time
recording
you
and
will be
editing
able
in
to
Audacity, and when you are
hear
used to
the
this software,
sound from the top track because I have
more
kept the
complex
overdub
software.
on.
For Mac, you have
I don't find the overdub feature necessary for voiceover recording, so I'll turn it off. There is another option after the overdub, software playthrough. You will see a headphone input in many microphones. It is for live monitoring. If you want to hear how your recording sounds during recording, you can use this option. I do not use live monitoring during recording, so I'll uncheck the software playthrough option. I have said it before and reminding you again. If you do not see the connected devices in Audacity, rescan audio devices can help. I will now discuss an interesting effect, very useful for podcasters. The audio I just dragged to Audacity is a piece of music. Let me expand the tracks a bit. It becomes too squeezed after dragging the music track. The voice and the music track have similar loudness. It would make it difficult to hear the voice. Using AutoDuck, I can adjust the music track automatically, though it will not work because the music track has to be on top of the voice track. You can see a message asking for the AutoDuck track to be on top. You can move the track up or down using the track information panel. I can now apply the AutoDuck for the music track. I will shift the voice to the right so that some music is played before the talking starts. Before applying AutoDuck, let's listen to how it sounds together.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording.
The music is too loud for the voice. The AutoDuck will take the music down during the talks. You can set the DUC amount, which is -12 dB by default. I'll apply the default settings. Let's play and listen.
Audacity is the best free software for audio editing and recording. Though there are a couple of other softwares which is free, but Audacity is the easiest one to use. You can practice your audio recording and editing in Audacity, and when you are used to this.
After auto-ducking, the music becomes low as the voice starts. It is a handy tool for podcast intro and outro. You can also manually adjust the volume from the envelope tool. AutoDuck decided where to lower the music. You can set 2 points with the envelope tool and drag the volume down or up. It enables fine-tuning the volume levels. I think the middle part of the music is already at the low points, so the envelope tool is not doing much. I can show this envelope tool from the part where the volume is much louder. In the end, the music is louder, so let's try the envelope tool there. Select the envelope tool and click at 2 points. Drag from inside the 2 points, so other parts of the audio will remain unaffected.
You just press the stop button.
I hope you understand how the envelope tool is doing a similar job to AutoDuck. Audacity is a powerful tool if you can use it correctly. You will want to get a single track or file from multiple tracks. Generating a single track from multiple tracks is called mixing. You can find the mix tool in the tracks menu. To mix multiple tracks, you have to select those tracks. I'll select both tracks and go to the tracks menu. I can combine these to get a single track. It will have the same sound as when the both tracks are playing. If you want to keep both tracks and mix them into a new track, that is also possible. A new mix track is created at the bottom. To export this track, select everything in the track and go to Export. Audacity lets you export your audio in many formats. WAV is a lossless format that keeps all the audio data. If you need a smaller file size, then you can choose MP3. I usually choose WAV. You have to choose a location and a file name and you can save. You now know everything to work with multiple tracks in Audacity. In fact, you now know everything you need for voiceover or podcast recording and editing. Let me know in the comment if you need to know anything else about Audacity. My channel is full of Audacity tutorials. I suggest you browse through those. If you watch all the Audacity tutorials on my channel, I think you will know all the necessary concepts of professional audio editing. If you can comment on which purpose you use Audacity, it will help me to make future videos. For example, if you are generating an audiobook, I can give specific tips for audiobook generation. If you are using it for podcasting, I can guide you in podcast editing. If you want to generate good quality audio, the first step would be to make sure your recording environment is right. The right recording environment means it is quiet and has no obvious, loud background noise. Otherwise, you won't be able to generate as much good sound as you like. Thanks for watching and see you next.